Next up on No Surprises.
I cannot tell you the affirming feedback I've gotten. It's not only so great when you love something, but when your larger community makes an effort to tell you, it's just the best feeling.
I mean, it's like going out with new bangs. It's like,
wow.
It's like your digital new haircut.
Perfectly full circle.
Yes. And then you think I should have done this all along. I was meant to have bangs. I was meant to have this website. I only wish I had done it earlier.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I did have those exact thoughts. It's been about 10 years since I had bangs. And I too thought, what have I been doing with my forehead for all this time? Hi, I'm Kelsey Gilbert-Kiley.
And I'm Mallory Ulazic.
This is No Surprises, a look inside the ambitious, joyful, and occasionally terrifying journey of running a web design agency. We are so excited about this week.
Wait, a quick moment for the bangs.
No.
Look at you. I know some people might just be listening instead of watching, but Kelsey got a new haircut this past week and she absolutely looks like the lead character of a rom-com.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, excellent.
I am not the only thing new around here. We have the fabulous, much spoken of in previous episodes, Rischall, who is here with us to talk a little bit about her experience being a client of ours and building her new website for 3PR. We're so happy to have you, Rischall. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us.
Oh my gosh, I am as excited about my new site as I am about your bangs. Both really big, amazing developments that look so good. So good.
I think that my bangs and your new website were perhaps thought about for about the same amount of time because I have joked that I'm finally outside of the postpartum window of no new decisions. And,
no new decision.
People were just like, don't do it. Don't make choices while it's still fresh. Just, no drastic life changes. But I feel like you had been thinking about doing something new with your website for a bit too, right, Rich?
Yes, I feel like dramatic hair changes and brand overhauls require a lot of thought and premeditation and having the right person involved, maybe getting some input from valued sources. So there's like a real equivalency here happening. But I could gush for a long time about working with you guys. I've had the good fortune to do it more than once, but this was my first time where it was truly a reflection of my business. And we really went deep and did the whole process. And I cannot tell you the affirming feedback I've gotten. It's not only so great when you love something, but when your larger community makes an effort to tell you, it's just the best feeling.
I mean, it's like going out with new bangs. It's like,
wow.
It's like your digital new haircut.
Perfectly full circle.
Yes. And then you think I should have done this all along. I was meant to have bangs. I was meant to have this website. I only wish I had done it earlier.
I'm going to be honest with you. I did have those exact thoughts. It's been about 10 years since I had bangs. And I too thought, what have I been doing with my forehead for all this time?
And Kelsey, now I have.
I love your forehead.
We're a banging website. It's perfect. Yes. Well, that's been our episode, everybody. Promise everything for me here.
Chop, chop. What are you waiting for?
Woo! Put it in the can.
Before we dive in, let's talk a little bit about 3PR.
Yes.
And get some background on, what you're doing, what was the, what made you move to get the new website with 3PR? Obviously we know about 3PR, but tell us, Rischall.
Sure. Early days, I, as a child, had regrettable bangs. And like many of us, we evolve and grow and we make better decisions. So for years, I worked in other agencies. I learned from other people. That was wonderful. 5+ years ago, I started 3PR with the intention of working on brands that I genuinely liked. So I was never faking my enthusiasm with a strict no asshole policy because I need time to be dedicated to good human beings. And it's been overall a wonderful ride and incredibly fulfilling. When I started, a good friend of mine that you know well, Molly Each, helped me create a get started website, and I was perfectly fine with that for a long time. It sort of had who I was, the key info. It wasn't over the top, but it felt like if you wanted to validate that I was a real human being on the internet,
Right.
find it, and it checked the box.
You can Google me and I have a website.
Like I do lifestyle and food-centric PR. I have graduated from university. I have experience. This is me. And then coincidentally, I was with Molly at a wedding and she said to me, it's time. And only a good friend can say this in the way that a friend can also tell you, you need a new haircut. So she said,
right. The
you
bangs
need to
don't work.
refresh your website. You should go to Kelsey and Mal and talk about doing week of the website. And I was kind of dumbfounded. Like, to me, you guys are in such a different league. Your business keeps growing. I just felt like that would be an amazing reach to be able to work with you guys to do my site overhaul. But you're incredibly kind and collaborative women. And when I floated the idea, I got this enthusiastic yes. And what I feel like has happened is that I've really leveled up. And as my business has grown over 5 years, now my site actually reflects where I sit professionally in a way that was more disconnected than I realized. So now I feel like it's all in alignment.
I love that. And I feel like if I were to describe to someone, you know, who our kind of like core key client is, that sense of I built my first website or someone else did it for me, but now I'm ready to bring my website to match where my business is now. I think that's so perfect, like such a perfect way to describe where most of, like many of our clients are. And I love hearing that it's helped you feel like people can see the good work you've been doing. Like that idea of bringing it into alignment is really cool. And I don't know if we've ever really like articulated that, but I do find that to be like very fulfilling when you're like, great, now you have a website that matches the incredible work you're doing. It's like so fun.
What came to mind is it's almost the difference between having a starter home and a dream house.
Yeah.
And I had a starter home and you guys built my dream house.
Oh, come on. That's so
That's like
nice.
natural. We work with lots of folks in that position, right? I think when we started, we worked with more folks who were coming to us with brand new businesses. And nowadays, I think it's like, you know, partially because the internet is older, but like, you know, people find themselves in positions like you where you've taken your website to as far as it's going to go for you in this moment. And it's time to make the leap into something that is, I mean, frankly, sometimes it just comes down to the ability to be able to manage your site, because I think you were on an older version of the platform. And like whenever we talk to people who are on really old versions and we have to tell them like, ooh, this is going to be like quite a leap for you in terms of like understanding. You know, sometimes it's just kind of like the necessary evil, and it's something that whenever people ask me like, how often should I be planning on a new website? I was like, well, it depends on your business, but anywhere between like 2 to 10 years, like you're going to have to, 10 years is like way too long.
Yeah.
I like panic when I think about that. I'm like, even 5 years feels too long because the technology is changing. That's a whole different tangent.
Yeah.
I'll stop now.
So I have a question for you, Rischall, because, you know, the backstory is that Rischall actually did the very first week of the website process that ever happened ever. And the way that this happened, well, Molly, who is the hub of all of this apparently, and I had worked together, Molly and Rischall and their other partner. I'm having total baby brain right now.
Liz, yes.
Liz, thank you. Molly, Liz, and Rischall had this amazing reading series. Can you tell us a little bit about Between Bites so that people can know about it?
It's coming back. So this
I'm
is like
so
a breaking
excited.
news. Yes. So save the date in March. Between Bites is all about food inspired storytelling. The three of us, shortest version, came together kind of serendipitously and realized, wouldn't it be wonderful if there was an event you could go to and people told food inspired stories that are both funny and poignant and really ran the emotional spectrum, and the events would have food and drink and great people, and it would raise money for charity. So we ran this event series up until COVID and now are coming back, but we didn't have a website and none of us had the skill set nor the interest in figuring it out, which is where you guys stepped in. And it's crazy that our journeys kicked off all those years ago together.
Wow, it's wild. And I wonder about this all the time because for years and years, it was just me and Mal, right? Like
Yeah.
I built it, she PM'd, we worked directly with each other. So for you, when you came back for your personal site, all these 8, almost 9 years later, you were walking into a very different agency than the Kelsey and Mallory show that it started as. I'm sure you had some expectations around what the process would be like and what the experience would be. Was it hard to be open to having like other people be a part of the project? Like Susan, you knew was a new team member. Did that like freak you out at all?
I can understand why you're asking. It did not. And the reason is, I think good people tend to choose equally good, talented, kind people to work with. I figured that your judgment and who you would bring into your circle would be really great. And so when you said we have a new person working on this, that really dispelled any worries I had, because if you vouched and I believed, we were set. And then sure enough, everybody was wonderful and hardworking and really dedicated. So what was fascinating is when we did Week of the Website for Between Bites all those years ago, you guys were really buttoned up, really on top of it. We got a beautiful site. Everything about it checked out and was a fabulous experience. But to be able to witness your evolution now and to go through it and see how you've added to your team and how sophisticated you are and how the process has, leveled up as well. It was like watching someone go from being a kick-ass intern to a CEO.
Yay! We're all grown up, baby. Kelsey,
You guys are. You're like, yes, you're grown up website ladies. That's what you should call yourself.
You know what?
Everyone,
Rebrand.
Grown up website ladies.
Grown up website ladies. Does this mean I get a low pony? My historical
Scientist.
Yes,
woman
you
figure?
get. There's a hairstyle that really matches this new stage of your professional development.
It's the hat. It's the low half up.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one.
Or you could tie like a jaunty scarf around it, and we call that the Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh, we love it.
Yes.
Tell me, were there any moments of the site? Like, I always think that the first couple of days feel so, what's the word, like intense, because you go from, let's talk about a bunch of ideas to here you go, take a look at what we have done to kind of synthesize what you told us you wanted. Now, seeing you in your office, it makes me smile because your website feels like an extension of your office. Like the color palette and the tones and the shapes, it's really fun to see. But when you got the link to like look at the site, do you remember what you felt before you clicked on it?
Well, wait, let me go backwards for 1 second, because when you're talking about the intensity of the beginning, I'm thinking back. The only thing that felt really daunting is that you guys are so buttoned up and you're so skilled in understanding what makes a great website. And one of the exercises for me was go find what you like and go find what you don't like, so we have a sense of your preferences. And I'm not someone who has an amazing eye for design. So as I'm combing through these other websites, I kept asking myself, am I looking at this through the right lens? Like, what if I just don't have great taste? What if I'm just not eyeing this the way a professional would? And so I had to kind of get out of my own way and just react to other people's websites and say, does this feel inviting? When I'm on their website, do I want to know more? Do I want to keep clicking? Does it feel welcoming? Or does this website feel too busy? Or does it feel a little bit, like cluttered and off-putting? Or is the tone of their website like somebody whose house you don't want to step inside because it doesn't feel like warm and inviting? And so what I tried to step away with was, how can I give Kelsey and her team like the right adjectives and the experience I want to create?
Yeah.
And then I got out of my own way. But I can understand if you're not a great design person, which is me,
Yeah.
help with my office, that initially can be a little bit daunting.
Yeah.
I think that's a really, I forget about that sticky wicket where some folks just don't feel confident in their way to like synthesize design ideas, which I You know, now looking back, I always like chuckle at, 'cause I'm like, no, we just want to know what you like. Like, we just want to know what you think is pretty. That's it. It doesn't mean that it's like objectively good, but I always like think about back when my sister was getting married and she was like, okay, like we were like, what color bridesmaids dresses do you want? And my friend was going to be making the dresses. And she was like, I don't know, like I think like in the wedding it will be like the bouquets will be like brown and yellow and there'll be like sticks. And she was using this to explain it. And I was like, okay, okay. And my friend who was making the dresses was like, what is she talking about? And I was like, sis, we're gonna need to dig a little deeper with the brown and the sticks. Can you send me some photos? And she sent me these like really like whimsical, like slightly unruly, like very like forest like blooms. And I was like, okay, here we go. Got it. Like send me a visual. Like we just want to know what you think looks pretty.
Yeah.
It's okay if you feel like you can't describe it. Like that's what we're here. We're here to like pull it out, but we want to be like, do you like pink? Or do you like
That's such a
green?
good
Like, you know,
because it's the power of language and understanding. Like I'm trying to take a feeling or a gut instinct and convey it to you with the right language. And you're
right.
trying to give me, which you ultimately, I think what solved it is I said, can you give me examples of what you guys like and aren't a super big fan of? Because I live by this theory of choose three, pick one. If somebody's like, let's go out to dinner, and you're like, where should we go? And then you just freeze. Somebody says 3 restaurants, and then the other person has to pick one of those 3. And when I was wedding planning, which I sucked at, I was the worst at wedding planning. My husband literally said to me during our engagement, you do know you have to plan the wedding, right? Like I just was so paralyzed by the options. It's too many options.
There's a lot of choices. Yes,
Yes.
there are too many options. There's a lot of choices. And I feel like that idea where there's like so much at you, it's really hard to get to a point where you're like, okay, like, can I be like, this is what I like. That's a hard thing to get to.
Some people love a buffet of choices. And I think when they're designing their website, they might want to look at 17 shades of turquoise. But for me, I like a tight number of curated options to look at, so it's not overwhelming. And somebody to say, we've checked out the landscape of a zillion websites, and we think these 5 have some really amazing elements, and we think these ones might not speak to you. That, for me, on the sort of the customer side, was really helpful because I trust your taste, and you've given me a smaller pool to choose from, which in turn relieves my anxiety of making a bad or wrong choice.
Well, I actually think that like that's something that we've kind of accidentally done with Week of the Website is make it a really good option for people who can be a little bit indecisive, because we do, just by nature of time, like you both know I'm working on this book right now, and I went to bed the other night and I thought, you know, if I had all the time in the world to write this, I would never get it done. Like there's something about having guardrails that helps like focus energy and focus like, okay, I have to do this because there are these boundaries around this. So what do I need to do to make it happen? And for us, like when we're working with clients, we just don't have time to go through 100 shades of turquoise, like you said. And I think one of the things that we have definitely been not struggling with, but I think it's like an evolution is, you know, our clients are changing. They're becoming more and more sophisticated. And we have to do a little bit more work to understand, okay, what is the way that they are going to most successfully convey what they need to us? Because for some people, it's like, yeah, I found you 5 examples, things I don't like, things I like. Great, take these and run with it. Some people, it's like, that's not how my brain works. And what we've started doing recently is asking our team members to use the discovery survey, use the outline to kind of like get an overall picture of what the client's saying, but then bring our own inspiration to show them of like, here's what you're saying, here's what I'm hearing, and here's what that looks like. Is this connecting? Because I think sometimes it can be very like hard to make like what's in people's head and what they're saying out loud doesn't always match. So I feel like that's become like a renewed part of our job, is making sure everybody's like visually on the same page.
Yeah. Actually, I want to share 2 more things on it. I think you're a genius. A lot of genius involved. But one of the things that you guys have done that I think is truly so smart and applicable to other businesses is you've made time constraints one of your selling points. So if you were like, it's the 2-month website, I think a lot of people would be like, oh, I don't know if I can work on this for 2 months, or that feels like a too big commitment. But when you say week of the website and you literally deliver a soup to nuts gorgeous website in 1 week, it feels so much more palatable. And I think that built-in urgency and sense of needing to get it done with a hard deadline is beneficial for all involved. So you compress the waffling and the what should I do, and you just move on it. You also expect your client to deliver as well. Like I had homework and that was good. It was helpful for me to say, I have to fill out the sheet or I'm holding up the process. I'm going to be the impediment to this getting done if I don't pull in my assets and pull in my language and think through these things. The other thing I love, Kelsey, as we were doing it together, is Susan would present something and then you would chime in and sort of be this like voice of experience. You'd be like, Susan, I really love that font choice, or something about this doesn't quite hit me. What if we tried this instead? And so it almost felt like I was in the passenger seat and you were driving really expertly. And like, I kind of knew where I wanted to go, but you had the directions. Can you tell I use a ton of analogies? But anyways, it felt good to have somebody at the wheel who was able to almost be inside my head and like think of things I might not be able to articulate because it's not my skill set, but be able to look at something and say, this would pop more if we did this. And I think that's your gift. And you did it in a way that felt really constructive and never critical to the person making the decision.
Well, you've hit on something that I think is a growing pain of ours and something that is like a fun challenge for us to figure out. And we've been noodling on it in a bunch of different ways, but like I and Katie get the opportunity to speak with every potential client who comes to us, right? And we get to have that kind of dig deep conversation with like, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? You know, learning about them and about the project before we tell them about week of the website. And then what happens is like, you know, they go through the process, they contract, they pick their date, then we get their team in place. And one of the things that we're working really hard to try and solve is what happens between that first conversation and the kickoff call when you've had all of this prep work happen in the middle to make sure that like the energy and understanding that they feel in the sales call is translated to that kickoff and everybody knows what's going on. So I think that's something that we're still really working on, is like, how do you transfer that knowledge from me and Katie of the project and its intuition, you know, those like intuitive pieces of the project to the team building it. And I think we're pretty good at it, but you know, we're never content with pretty good.
I mean, this is something we've been working on from the start. Once we started bringing on contractors, is that piece where we're doing the project handoff from sales to delivery. And that's always been like that thing that we're always trying to solve for X. And I think we get really close to it, because like some of the things that we've implemented, like some of our systems to fall back on, help us stay, like one piece of that is like the organization piece, right? Making sure we have all of our ducks in a row and we can share that information in detail to the rest of the team. But like taking that time to really like bring people into the project too. Like I think that people love to breeze over that process and be like, okay, hot potato, but that's not how it works. And like, it's our job to kind of like transfer that like energy from the client about our excitement, their design ideas to the team.
Yeah. So we are getting close to the end of our time, but I want to spend a minute. Rischall, tell us 3 things that you are like wildly excited about that are happening with 3PR.
Ooh,
could be like client stuff, new projects, anything that's just making you feel really excited about work these days.
So I went to this event the other night, which I invited you guys to, and a Monday night is not easy with kids, or just life in general. But I went to this event that was celebrating women who are running VCs. And I ran into a woman who I've admired for years, who I've only met once, who also started her own firm. And she recognized me and pulled me aside to say, I've been tracking your career online. I'm so impressed with what you've done. I love your website. We went from sort of this like virtual connection to this in-person connection, and to be in a room of inspiring, amazing women and to be sought out by somebody I admire to share this feedback about my business and how I'm operating. It was the best. Do you know what I mean? It was like a little
Yeah.
valentine to my business and to feeling like I sit in my own office all day long. There's many days that I just don't really see anybody and everything's online. And so to get that affirmation, that was a win.
Amazing.
I just hit my 5-year anniversary working with Farmer's Fridge, which in an industry where there's so much churn and clients and agency partners come and go so quickly, I'm really cherishing that longevity and feeling like we've been able to build something for half a decade.
Yeah.
So that's a good feeling. And then I posted on LinkedIn about my new website, courtesy of this amazing outfit called Week of the Website. And I'm telling you, I'm not like a LinkedIn influencer. It's not like a place where I feel like I really like shine, but people came out of the woodwork to compliment this website and to ask where it was done and to share really, really beautiful compliments about it. And so I feel like I am still basking in the results of our work together. So
I love that.
I feel like such a proud mom right now.
I know.
You gave me a gorgeous baby.
Week
She's
of the
the best
website, making gorgeous babies together with you.
It takes a village.
It takes a
It
village.
does. Oh my God, what doesn't these days?
Right.
What doesn't?
Well, we are, again, so grateful to have you as a podcast guest, a friend, a longtime client, to many, many more. I also wrote down redo BB site. I know how long it's been since you built your Between Bites website.
Yes.
It was the beginning of Week of the Website.
Guys,
the first
the
website
most
of
full
Week of the
circle.
Website.
I think it's time. We'll talk offline about this.
Okay.
Again, thank you so much for being here. We absolutely loved it. If you want to keep listening to No Surprises, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch this delightfulness on YouTube. Our website is weekofthewebsite.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Week of the Website. We will be back next week.
Yes, we are back next week. We're back next week this was the penultimate episode. That will be the ultimate, the last episode of the season.
Can I?
We'll be doing a little memories, trip down memory lane. We should prepare a slideshow of images.
Please. I'm sorry, but I have to add one more thing before we wrap this up. Yesterday on Instagram, we did this Instagram stories roundup. We will note these in the show notes, of course, of water is wet, because this is the thing that we've been saying a lot. And our team shared things that everyone knew apparently but them. We were in stitches all day hearing about stuff from our team. I just remembered the one that I could not remember yesterday.
Which is?
I only found out what penultimate means when Breaking Bad was wrapping up its last season, because I watched what had been described as the penultimate episode. We wrapped up the episode and I was like, wow, I cannot believe that was the finale. Like, so many things were left.
They ended it that way. Oh my
and Zach
God.
was like, I'm pretty sure there's another episode. I was like, no, it's the penultimate. And he's like, that means there's one more.
If it makes you feel better, I went through almost my entire life up until maybe the past year having the wrong definition for ambivalence, which has made for a fair amount of confusion over the years.
Oh my God.
I thought ambivalence was different. I didn't know where it was you feel two competing things. I thought ambivalence, like, oh, do you want to get together? I'm ambivalent. I don't really care. But it's actually
That's what I
part
thought
of me
it
wants
meant.
to and part of me doesn't.
Wait,
Wow.
I thought ambivalent meant that you could care less either or.
You guys, fact check me, but I also thought ambivalent was like, I don't really care. It doesn't really matter to me. But actually, it means you have two different feelings, like mixed.
Like you care equally about it and can't make a choice.
More of that.
I hope that this portion of the podcast is really good for anyone struggling with imposter syndrome, because you too can run a multi-year business while still not knowing what words mean.
And next up, inertia.
Yeah, next week. Oh, all right. We say goodbye. Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.